Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to another stream of Imperialist. Now firstly a disclaimer, I'm currently showing what will become build number 21. The current live build is version 20, so some things you see in this video may not be in the actual live version, but are coming soon. Like for instance this new menu layout. The purpose of this video today is just to explain a bit about what Imperialist is about. Imperialist is a 4x turn-based strategy game, and it's similar to games like Civilization, Colonization, Old World, and Era. So what we're going to do now is go into a game, and I'm going to explain a bit about the actual game itself and what you as a player need to do. When you start the game, you're brought in to the world map, and you can see what is the old world. So the old world is populated by major nations such as yourself, which is red in this instance, other major nations like blue and white and brown, but there are also minor nations as well, and these are the grey ones down here. In Imperialist, the major nations are the only ones who are able to win the game. Now, major nations represent, countries like England, France, and Spain in the year 1500. So the premise of the game is that you need to lead your nation through the age of discovery and industrialisation and emerge as the world's first superpower. And that is based on the years 1500 to 1950. So beginning in the year 1500, you begin with a couple of provinces, maybe just one in this instance, and you need to start from a very basic country, and then you need to grow, use the resources that you can extract, create a military, and I'm going to delete that bit. The game map is divided into two areas, and you can see this neatly via this screen here, where we have the old world on the right, which represents Europe, and we have the new world with the fog of war, which represents, in our historical terms, the Americas. So what you need to do is explore the new world, find new lands to capture, use the resources in those new lands to grow your economy, to industrialize, to create a massive army and navy, to conquer the old world major players. So the main parts of the game include the top bar, which from left to right you have the menu, the year. This is your industrial output. So how many hammers are allocated, your total hammers, and how many workers are sick. I'll go through that in a minute. You have your money, and you have your basic construction resources listed here. There are many other resources in the game, but these are your basic construction ones. And on the right hand side is the pedia. This is where you can get help on various topics and some strategy notes. We have tooltips. So this is the tile tooltip, which tells you information about the tile that your mouse cursor is currently over. And on the left hand side, we have the navigation buttons. These take you to the different screens that you need for running your empire. We have the end turn button to end the turn and process the next one. The mini map, plus also we have buttons which take you to the next idle civilian and the next idle army and navy. So the units on the map are divided into two types of units. There are civilians who stay within your own lands, and they actually do things with the land to improve it. They are prospectors, builders, engineers, and explorers. There will be a merchant coming in future versions, but it's currently not implemented. There are also armies and navies, which comprise your military. Armies can go across land and navies across water. Armies are represented by these guys here and can move certain tiles on land. Your navy is represented by the boat and can move certain tiles on water. The basic operation is left click to select someone and right click to do an action. Now this guy here is the prospector. There are two types of resources. There are visible resources, like things on the land like grain, cattle, horses, sheep, trees, and there are hidden resources. And you can see in the bottom right in the tile tooltip it says prospect for coal, iron, copper, silver and gold. And the prospector is the one that exposes these resources if they exist on the tile. The second type of civilian is the builder. The builder is the civilian who does the actual tile improving. So they build a farm on wheat, and you can see on the left hand side, can build wheat farm, can build a cattle farm, or a horse farm, or a sheep farm. The builder also improves any resources that the prospector finds. The engineer is the civilian who builds roads and ports. The engineer is responsible for transportation, because in Imperialist, all resources must be transported to the capital, either by wagons, which is automatic, you don't need to worry about the transportation, or via ship. So the way transportation works is a tile improvement must be next to a road. And the road must either go to the capital or to a port. And if the resources end up in a port, you may then use ships to transport those resources to your capital. And I'll show you more on that soon. For now, I'm going to make the engineer go to this tile here. Now, the way giving orders to your civilians and armies is that they go into an action queue. They are the actions are not processed immediately. So this means you can actually undo an order. So if I right click on the engineer, it undoes the order that I've given him. I can undo all of my characters and they will all return to their starting spots. So the prospector prospects tiles, and they can prospect mountains, hills, deserts and swamps. Builders improve resources. This is grain, and grain is required for food. Engineers build your transportation network. White is for building roads. Yellow is for building ports. Roads must be built onto an existing road, and cities and capitals are always got a road. Now the screens down the left. The first one is logistics and warehouse. This explains your transportation network. Any resource that is connected to a road is available for transportation. If that road is connected to the capital, then they are transported via wagon, and that is automatic. You do not need to do anything to transport resources by wagon except ensure that the tile is next to or on a road. If the road goes to a port, then that port can transport the goods via ship to the capital. This is this column here. So when resources are transported via wagon to a port, they will appear here available to assign to ship. Now you have certain cargo holds. You can only transport as much resources as you have cargo holds. So you need to be very careful which resources you transport from port to your capital, and ensure you pick the right ones. This first column is how much you're actually producing of a resource. This equates to how many tile improvements are making how much of a resource. Column 2 and 3 are your transportation numbers. How much of this resource that's produced is transported by wagon and by ship. The fourth column is how much stock is used. For instance, grain and meat is food. So grain and cattle get eaten by your workers, so they will be used. When you build tile improvements, you will be using lumber and cast iron. This is the pre-turn balance, because your factories also use stock as well. So your pre-turn balance is how much transportation and civilian usage is eating up your resources. You then allocate goods to the factories to be processed into other commodities. Civilians use various commodities for buildings. And the warehouse shows the current stock. The second button is the industrial screen. This is where it shows your worker pool and your factories. Your worker pool starts off very basic and can be improved through research. Your workers produce hammers. Each worker produces a certain number of hammers, so a labourer produces 1 hammer. An apprentice produces 4 hammers, and so on. Hammers get allocated to your factories, along with resources to produce goods. So I currently have 4 labourers producing 4 hammers. So I can allocate 2 hammers and 2 lumber, or 2 logs, to create lumber. Now I can produce 2, or I could produce a different good. Now I'm going to choose lumber and cast iron because they're your primary construction materials at this early stage. And you can see here that I've allocated 4 of 4 hammers. I've got no further hammers that I can allocate, so I can do no more in my factories. The other thing to note is that workers eat. My 4 workers require 2 grain and 2 meat. This is your warehouse goods that your factories will use, and how much you've got of each. You can recruit new workers through the recruit button, and that will use 2 fabric to create a labourer. To promote a worker, which is done after you've researched the correct technology, you need paper plus money plus a worker, a labourer. But since I've allocated my workers, I'm going to come out of that screen now. You can see up the top that now says I've allocated 4 of 4 hammers and I've got no one sick. If a worker is unable to eat because you've run out of food, they become sick and you cannot use their hammers. The third screen is the civilian and military screen, buying screen. You can purchase more civilians, which requires money plus paper. You can purchase prospectors, builders, engineers, and explorers. You can also purchase various units that go into your armies, and various ships which go into your navies. At the moment, I have no free labourers, quite simply because I've allocated them to factories. You also notice with ships, I need different technologies to unlock the other categories of ship, because when you first begin, you can only create the Carrack, the most basic ship in the game. I have 3 units in my initial army, which is at the capital. And those 3 units are an arquebusier, a pikeman, and a lancer. The next screen is the technology screen. This is where you have the technology tree, which stretches all the way through. And yes, I do know I need a zoom in here. Now the technologies unlock various items. Any technology that is not greyed out, see how this has grey? And I will be changing this screen, don't worry. Anything that is greyed out, you cannot research. Anything that when you hover over it turns red means you can select it. You start off with the first column of technologies known, and you need to research from then on. The only exception is for the New World technologies, based on cotton, spices, sugar, tobacco, animals. To research these technologies, you need to discover the resource first. Once you have found a cotton tile, you may begin researching cotton planting and cotton weaving, and the same for the other New World resources. For now, I'm going to select 3 field system. So you click on it and it comes into your technology slots. Technology costs a certain amount of money for a certain amount of turns. This one is $100 for 10 turns. You can rush it, which means insta-buy it, but it's double the price of whatever's left. To cancel a technology, just click the X and it opens your slot again. If you have researched into a technology and you cancel it, it remembers how far through you are for the next time you select it. So I'm going to put 3 field system back in so that I can get my second level of wheat farm. Because the higher the level of a tile improvement, the more of a resource it produces. Now the last screen is diplomacy. Now this is just a temporary screen just to expose the ability to declare war and make peace with other major nations and other minor nations. This is not reflective of how the final diplomacy screen will work. It only reflects the ability to change diplomacy state, which was introduced in version 20. When you start the game, you're at peace with the other major nations and at truce with the other Old World minor nations. This means that you cannot attack them straight away. You need to come into diplomacy and declare war on them first before you may attack them. So I'm now going to end the turn. What this does is it tells all the queued up actions to process. Now you will have seen that my prospector has discovered a copper deposit, and you can see that in the tile tooltip in the bottom right hand corner. It says it's a mountain with a copper deposit and no tile improvement. I can now move my prospector to another tile. My builder has built a wheat farm. So I can now move over here and create a copper mine on our new copper resource. The builder has extended a road from the capital. We're going to keep building this road outwards towards these resources. What we're going to do now is show these buttons. These buttons pick the next idle of civilian or army navy. So this is the army navy button, and it's picked the army. It's selected the army, which can only move on land. I'm going to leave him there for the minute, so I'm going to click next one and get my navy. I'm going to explore the new world. So I move the navy towards the new world. You can see the AI is also moving towards the new world. If we come into the logistics screen now, you can see that food is being eaten by the workers. So we now have a negative balance and our stock is going down. We have also used timber in a factory to create lumber. We have also used iron to produce one cast iron in our factory. And you will also notice that we used 2 lumber and 2 cast iron last turn when we built a road and we built the grain farm. So in this way you can keep an eye on what level your goods are. Between turns, the industry screen does not change unless you run out of resources and the workers get allocated back to the pool. If you want to continue producing the same goods, the same factories each turn, you don't need to come into the industry screen every turn. Just keep an eye up here and just make sure that the first 2 numbers are fully allocated. And that shows you there's no workers resting. So I'm now going to go to the next turn. Actually, before I do that, into the technology screen, you can see that it has now come down to 9 turns, and we've spent $100 to move forward this technology research. The only other screen I didn't show you was the trade screen. This is where you buy and sell on the global market. Now the prices here will fluctuate based on supply and demand. So if you sell a lot, the price will drop. If you buy a lot, the price will rise. So on the next turn now, we can tell our prospector to keep prospecting. We can tell our builder to go and build. I'm going to build on this cattle next. Our engineer to continue the road. I'm going to tell the ships to keep moving towards the new world. Now a few turns have processed and we've got a road next to tile improvements. If we now go into the logistics screen, you can see that we now have 1 grain connected being transported by the wagon, which now means our balance is -1. We're still getting 2 eaten, but now we're replacing 1 with a new grain. Next turn, we will be producing a copper, and that will be transported automatically. Our workers are fully allocated. Our technology processed another turn. and everyone has a job. Keep our prospector exploring, and this time he found iron. I'm going to tell my engineer to build a road here, because remember the tile improvement must be adjacent to a roaded tile or on a road. So we need to extend outwards our road to here to capture these tiles on the coast. I'm going to get my builder to improve a horse tile so we can start collecting horses. Now we're getting close to the fog of war, so we're going to start exposing towards the new world. We still haven't found land out there yet, so we now move to the next turn. We get our prospector, prospect the mountains, get our builder. I'm going to improve the grain so that I've got 2 grain coming in. I'm going to get my engineer. I'm going to build a road outwards that way so that I can collect the iron deposit here plus these cattle here. Come over to our navy. We've now found the new world, and we found a tribal city. The new world is occupied by tribes. When you begin the game, there is no diplomacy with tribes. You are just at a state of war. Through research, and in a future update to the game, you will be able to conduct diplomacy with tribes. For now though, I'm going to move my ship towards the coast of the new world. We have now moved all our civilians. Our army is waiting in port. We have our industry working. Our technology is still processing. And we'll go to the next turn. Now our navy has a new icon on the coast. This is known as a beachhead. In Imperialist, the only way to transport an army across the water is through a beachhead. To establish a beachhead, the navy must begin the turn next to a land tile of who is owned by someone you are at war with. Because this is a tribal province, I am at war with this tribe, which means a beachhead is able to be established here. So now that I have a beachhead, we can bring an army in. To be transported across water, the army must start in a friendly port. And a port is indicated by these lighthouses on the tile. So select your army, you move over to your beachhead, and you can see I may move here. So my army is now invading the new world. When you use a beachhead, the navy ends its turn. It takes the entire turn for the navy to do the beachhead. Now we come back over and process our civilians. Prospect to prospect. Engineer, build a road. Builder will improve the iron. So now if I go into logistics, you'll see I've got grain, cattle, horses, all being transported on wagon, as well as copper. We are producing lumber and cast iron in factories, and plus we're using various goods as well. You can see that we now have a positive balance of horses, so the stock of horses will now increase. On the next turn, We get our prospector to prospect, get our builder to build, our engineer to road, and our civilians are done. I can now come over to the new world. Now I can take my army and I can attack the tribal city. And I have now captured this province. And you can just see the hint of my border on this province now. But just because I captured the province doesn't mean I know the land. For that, I need an explorer. So I will buy an explorer, which costs $500 and 3 paper. So if I now bring up my explorer, an explorer needs to move next to the fog of war, and they will expose through their visibility the map. So now you can see we've found tobacco, animals, spice plantations, cotton, and sugar. We've discovered all these resources in this one area, and that's actually a really fantastic find. What it also means is if I go into technologies, next turn actually, so I can continue exploring with my ship. And we go into the next turn. So now that we've discovered resources in the new world, we can come into our technology screen. And we can research our new world technologies. So I'm going to choose sugarcane planting. Now for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to come into my trading screen and I'm going to sell some goods to get myself to 2000 so that I can rush that technology and show you naval transportation. Come back into research, rush sugarcane planting. So now I will be able to build on that sugar. I grab my builder and I tell him to build on the sugar. I then need to also get my engineer to build a road out to that sugar. Get my explorer to explore, and we'll get the prospector to prospect. Our army is doing nothing. And I've actually just had a crash. So unfortunately, I actually had a crash then, so I wasn't able to show you what I wanted to show. So for the purposes of this, I have set up a new situation where I can show you how to transport goods from the new world via a port and ship to your capital. So what I have here is I've captured this tribal province and it has animals. I have researched the technology. As you'll see down here, I have researched improved trapping techniques to unlock the tile improvements. I then brought my builder over and I built the tile improvement, my hunter, and I brought my engineer over and built a road. You can see here there's a lighthouse indicating that it's also a port because all cities and capitals are ports. So what that means now is this tile improvement is producing resources which can be transported along this road to the port, meaning they are now ready for pickup by ship to take to our capital. So if I come into the logistics screen now, you will see here's my fur column, my fur row. I am producing one fur which is being transported to the port. It is sitting at the port ready for transportation. I have 9 cargo holds available to me to transport goods from port to the capital. So if I now allocate this one fur I'm producing onto the ship, you can see my balance is now +1 because I'm now importing that good from the New World, and I've now allocated one of my cargo holds. So what this now means is if I end the turn, then go back into my logistics screen, you can now see I have a warehouse balance of 1 because it is being transported in via ship. And that is how you transport goods from the New World to your capital. And eventually what will happen is you will research the technology for coat production. I am going to get myself to 2,000 money again, come back to technology. I'm going to rush. Actually, before I do, in the industry screen, you'll see I do not have any of the New World factory production lines set up yet. If I then rush coat production, I can come back to the industry screen, and I now have the factory line for coats, which requires furs. So now, because I have 1 and I'm importing 1, if I go to the next turn, I now have 2 furs. So when I go to my factory screen, I can now start producing coats. And I go to the next turn, and you will see we now have a coat. And that is how you process New World goods into luxury commodities. And that concludes this demonstration for today. I hope this has been helpful for everyone starting to play Imperialist. Thank you.